Hey everyone, the Beth and Deb Show back again. I'm Beth.
I'm Deb.
And we are continuing in our series about fighting fair because I think we're all in relationships, whether it's work or family or friends or a romantic relationship, and fighting just happens naturally.
Yep.
Conflict happens.
And conflict is actually good because that means you're talking about what's important to you, and you want to know what's important to the other person too.
Yeah, usually the folks that I work with in therapy who say, like, we don't ever fight. We don't fight in front of our kids. We don't fight in front of our friends or whatever. It's almost like they're stuffing things.
Yeah.
Or they're not like
you're
not coming up.
telling the truth to each other because you value keeping the peace more than you really value like knowing the other person, what's important to them and what's important to you.
Yeah, that's great. So this video is about some tips and strategies for how do you fight fair. And so the first one that I want to talk about is realizing your sort of fighting style and the style of the person that you might be interacting with. And so are you a person who goes toward the conflict, meaning you defend yourself, you need to talk it out, you need to hash it out immediately, right now, all the way from start to finish? And that is in contrast to the withdrawers who don't want to talk about it right now or ever. Right? And they want to just kind of retreat, protect, do the silent treatment,
right?
If any of those are ringing a bell, right? So I think it's realizing I'm always the aggressor or I'm the withdrawer. And honestly, it's realizing that first and realizing that is kind of how your partner or the person you're in conflict with, how they approach it and how that continues the argument, right?
Yes.
So I see couples who are like, I need to talk about this right now.
Yes.
And so it's not, gosh, this happened today and this is what we're arguing about, but then it turns into we're arguing about how we're arguing.
Yes. 100%.
Right? So that it just it just gets bigger from there. So I think it's first realizing, okay, this is his style and this is my style.
Yeah.
Neither of them is necessarily right or wrong.
Yeah, right. It's just how you are.
It's how we are, and it's if it's going to work in our relationship, I have to accept that this is his style or her style. And I also have to realize this is my style, and both of us probably need to take a step.
That 100% describes the beginning of my marriage because my husband is the one. Aggressor feels like a loaded word.
Yeah.
But for him, he just felt so anxious unless we talked about it and settled it right away. It wasn't that he was trying to be aggressive. It's just that he was like, I need this to be solved or else I'm worried that you're, like, this is going to mess up our relationship and that you're you don't love me anymore, all this kind of stuff. And for me, it was just like, I need time to process what I want to say, like my thoughts and feelings. I don't just know everything off the top of my head. So I wasn't meaning to withdraw, but it was just like, I need time.
Yeah.
I can't, if you push me on this now, I'm going to say something that I don't mean and that I regret.
Yeah.
So once we learned that about each other and respected those things and just were more aware, we were able to come up with a way where, like, I got some time, he got some reassurance that, like, we're going to come back to this in a little bit. I just need some time to think about it. And those kinds of things are so key to healthy relationships, is understanding and respecting your partner's style.
Yeah, and together coming up what's going to work.
Yes.
Right. I think that's really the key to what you described, is that there's not really one right or wrong answer here, right? That it's just, in this relationship with this person I care about, what is our fighting style and how can we both come to an agreement together that I know this about you, I accept this about you because I love you and I care about you, and now I'm going to do this because I know it respects and honors that part of you.
Yeah, and a big part of that was realizing that it wasn't wrong for the other person to be that way, right? It's just how they were.
The right and wrongness.
Yeah, because he thought it's the right way is to talk about it immediately. That's the healthy way. And for me, I didn't know if it was right or wrong to be the way. It's just how I felt, and I felt like, God, he's pushy, and why do we have to talk about it right now? And so then I would get mean in order to drive him away.
Sure.
Like use sarcasm as a way to push it. I'm a sarcastic person. So when you don't understand, when you don't have the awareness, then it becomes this toxic sludge that just escalates further and further. And like you said, then you're fighting about the way you fight.
Right.
And it doesn't even have anything to do with what you originally were in conflict about.
Yeah. And let's talk about rightness and wrongness.
Yes. So speaking of right and wrong.
The need to be right.
That is such a core, I don't know if it's like a core human thing or something we learn in families or things like that. But most of us approach conflicts thinking, well, of course, I'm right about this.
Right.
They are clearly wrong.
Yeah.
When truly, what it is, and I think we talked about this in our first video, is just two people with different perspectives on life, different ways that they were brought up, different things that they value. Yeah. So that aren't necessarily right or wrong. They're just different.
Yes.
And then when those things clash, people get entrenched and like, why won't you admit that I'm right about this?
Yeah.
When really it's like, well, you're both right in your way, but it's just not working together.
Yes.
Right? Like, so that's what you've got to focus on is let go a little bit of being right and say, okay, I feel right, but what I want to do now is understand why you feel like you're right. Mm-hmm. And if I can repeat that back to you and empathize and understand from your perspective, because I know your life history and why you would feel like that's right, then that helps me understand, okay, well, if that feels right to you and this feels right to me, is there something we can come up with in this moment?
Yeah.
So do you have any like good examples of something like that?
Well, I think it is shifting your brain to think, if I'm not right, then I'm like, we can't think about it as if I'm not right, then I'm wrong.
Yeah, it has to be black and white.
Right. You know, so like going into this as like, no, there are multiple rights in this perspective, right? Yeah. And so it's kind of retraining your brain to think, I can learn a lot here. I can deepen my relationship with this person here by realizing their truth or their right.
Right.
And it doesn't mean I'm wrong.
Right.
It's that there's multiple truths.
Yeah, and I'm thinking of an example that might, if you have a roommate situation or you're living with a partner or something like that, and you approach housekeeping in different ways.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of rightness there.
Here we are, I guess it's Deb talking about her relationship day because, again, my husband and I are opposites on a lot of different things, and he's very neat. And I am very not neat. I'm messier. So, especially, and this is a perpetual conflict for us because I think the Gottmans say like 75 to 80% of your conflicts with someone that you're in a close relationship will never be solved because they come from places that are just core places. Differences. So he feels really good when things are neat and in order, and he has his little routine at night where he sets his clothes out and everything like that. And it's adorable, and that makes him feel really good and organized inside. For me, I just want to take my clothes off wherever I'm at. Don't want to plan ahead for the next day. You know, that stuff is really boring to me. It makes me feel like, oh my God, it's a tedious chore. I hate
Another day like this.
Yes. So we come from really different places, and it's taken us time to realize he's not wrong for wanting things his way, and I'm not wrong for wanting things my way, but we do have to live together. So how do you come together and find ways that you're not driving each other crazy just with like the core things about who you are? And so that's just one example of not viewing the other person as wrong about what they want.
Yeah, definitely.
But also finding ways to make the conflict less like right in your face all the time.
Yeah, and I think what you said about it lots of arguments are the same thing over and over. But this is what we can't do. This is a really important tip right here is do not keep score, right? Of like, oh, here we go again. He did it again. She did it again. She did it again. She did it again.
You're always doing this.
Using language like always, never. I mean, those are just automatic triggers to have someone have their defense go straight up. So engage each argument with, okay, this is happening today, and then after we resolve it, we've got to let it go. We can't just keep this tally of, here he goes again, he's not doing the dishes, he's not doing the dishes, he's not doing the dishes. And then it blows up one day where I can't take it anymore, and I say, you always leave the dishes in the sink, and it makes me crazy. And that, nothing shuts people down more than when you say something like, you always do this.
Yeah.
Because it says to them, okay, I've been keeping score in my head about all the ways that you are wrong. That doesn't feel good for any of us.
Right.
And so I think one tip is, first of all, don't keep score, but then also focus on just what's happening right now. So today, it really frustrated me that I came home after a long day and the dishes were in the sink and you didn't do them today.
Yeah.
Just that. Focus on just that and use language. I'm a person who focuses on words, right? Make words matter. That those are the words that you have to use rather than, you're always doing this. You're never helping out or name calling, right? You're so lazy because you never do the dishes, or you must not care about me because if you cared about me, you would have done the dishes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just, it's absurd to say out loud, right? So focus on right now. Don't use words like always and never. Right?
Yeah, and I think going back to Brene Brown, I read a little thing that she wrote one time about the story we tell ourselves.
Oh, yes.
About our relationships.
I love that.
You just, the whole thing you just said is part of a narrative that we just have going in our mind, right? Of like, well, he never does the dishes because he doesn't care about me and he just doesn't ever think about what I need. And it's like, ooh, that's not probably true. He probably doesn't do the dishes because he doesn't like doing the dishes. It has nothing to do with you, or he doesn't think about it the way you do, right?
Yeah.
So taking those, like, I loved in the article, she was like, oh, I'm telling myself that story again.
Yeah.
And
catching yourself.
Yeah, catching yourself and cutting that off and kind of laughing at yourself, right?
Yeah.
In some ways of like, oh, here I go again with my story, is really good. And also I think if he hasn't done the dishes 10 times, then you're kind of late. In the game of
you should have said it right away.
Just say the first or second day, say, could we get the dishes done around here? And then that way you don't have the ability to say you never do the dishes,
And you've been stewing on it, right? It's building, your frustration, your resentment, your anger is building.
And if you're anything like me, you're also thinking, well, he should have noticed my subtle disapproval, the sigh that
the passive aggressive, like, I guess I'll do the dishes again today.
Exactly.
Right? That's not helpful.
Right.
Coming to them immediately and saying, I'm not going to let this frustration build. I'm feeling frustrated about this.
Yeah.
Right. And I think, again, trying to come to a resolution with every argument, if possible, right? To just be like, here's where we're going to kind of end. And I hear people say, okay, we're going to agree to disagree. And then tomorrow I'm going to be mad at you again about it. Right? Like, really agree to disagree. Like, and that really means I'm going to honor your perspective because you have a different story than I do. And so it's really like honoring that perspective and saying like, okay, like I'm just going to accept that you put your clothes out, and I'm going to ask that you accept that I'm going to be kind of a hot mess in the morning when I'm getting ready. And it might mean that I'm a couple of minutes late or, whatever it is. So I think agreeing to disagree means really coming to a resolution, accepting this.
Accepting the person you're in a relationship with, whether it's a friend, family member, accepting them as they are. And not trying to fit them into whatever makes you most comfortable, but saying, okay, you are your own person. That's okay.
Yeah. And this is going to lead right into our video about forgiveness. Forgiveness is a way bigger topic than we're going to be able to do this video. Okay. But hopefully some of these tips will help you in any relationship. If you have more questions about fighting or, hey, this is what's going on, how do I address this? Feel free to connect with us, and we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, we'll put more resources for conflict and fighting and relationships on our Instagram, links to things that we find helpful and that we think could help you as well. And so we'll talk to you next time.